This is Diabetes Undone, where I'll show you how you can potentially reverse your diabetes and reclaim your health with simple lifestyle strategies. In the last episode, we learned about the green light foods that can dramatically improve your life and even help reverse your diabetes. This time, Brenda and I are talking yellow and red, the foods that you can approach with caution or avoid altogether. That last section got me excited about green light foods. I like learning about nutrition, especially when I see it changing people's lives. Brenda, this is a topic that you're especially passionate about also. Tell us about your personal experience in fighting diabetes in the Marshall Islands.
In 2006, I partnered with Canvasback Missions to do a diabetes lifestyle intervention trial. As the lead dietitian, my role was to develop and implement the nutrition part of the program. Our team was actually sent to Guam to train with Wes, since his program there was already well established. Our research compared standard diabetes care with intensive lifestyle intervention. We had 5 overlapping cohort groups with 169 participants. These people were used to eating the typical Marshallese diet. For breakfast, that might mean donuts or sweet pancakes. Children often for breakfast would have ramen noodles with dry Kool-Aid powder sprinkled on top. I actually saw a child putting some white powder on top of the ramen noodles, and I asked the Marshallese person next to me, what were they putting on top of their ramen noodle Kool-Aid mix? And the person said, oh, that was Ajinomoto, and Ajinomoto is pure MSG. Very shocking. For lunch and dinner, people generally eat white sticky rice with Spam or some other meat on top, and they would wash it down with something called luau. The #1 ingredient of luau was high fructose corn syrup. Very few people ever ate any fresh, whole foods. But we actually had some brave participants who were willing to give it a try. Our intervention group started eating a whole food, plant-based diet and exercising after their meals. For the first 2 weeks of the program, this group ate 3 meals a day at our clinic, and the success was remarkable. In just 2 weeks, the participants' blood sugars dropped an average of 71 points. They lost an average of 5 pounds, and their levels of inflammation significantly dropped. Many participants noticed the pain in their legs, arms, and joints either disappeared or dramatically improved. It was much easier for them to walk, and many of them couldn't even walk across the room when they started. Close to 90% of the group were able to completely discontinue oral medications for diabetes, high cholesterol, and for blood pressure. Almost everyone reported increased energy. The study continued, and so did the health benefits. By the end of the program, the average A1C drop was about 2 points, and many of the participants actually dropped 3 or 4 points. Several of them no longer fit the criteria for diabetes. There were only a few participants who started the program on insulin, but all of them soon had to discontinue its use. In the Marshall Islands, the view of diabetes is very grim. Many of our participants had seen their family members lose vision or lose their limbs as a result of poorly controlled blood sugars. That's why it was so rewarding to see these people realize that there was actually hope for change and that they could live full and healthy lives.
This story brings back many good memories of my work on the islands too. And it's just one more example of the powerful benefits of whole plant-based foods. But now that we know about green light foods, we need to learn about the other types. What can you teach us about yellow light foods?
Yellow means slow, so we need to approach these yellow light foods a little bit cautiously. These foods aren't nearly as nutritious as green light foods. That's why I recommend eating them sparingly. Only a small percentage of your calories should come from these foods. In fact, depending on your health status and your food preferences, you may want to avoid some yellow light foods altogether. Let's take a look at what these foods are. The first yellow light category is processed whole grains. This group includes whole wheat or whole grain bread, pasta or crackers, whole grain cereal, and whole wheat couscous. These grains have been processed in some way, but without removing the bran or germ. They're much healthier than foods made with white flour, but because they're still refined, they tend to spike blood sugars more than green light grains. Processed grains can be part of a healthy diet, but they need to be used cautiously, especially by people who are overweight or obese or who have type 2 diabetes. We'll discuss this more in the meal balancing section. Many processed fruits and veggies have added sugar, salt, or fat. Examples include canned or dried fruits with added sugar, sweetened applesauce, and canned and salted vegetables. All of these choices are yellow light foods. It's best to stick with fresh or frozen fruits, which will be more gentle on your blood sugars. If you purchase fruits in cans or jars, be sure they have no added sugar. Processed vegetables can lose many nutrients and are often high in sodium and fat. Frozen vegetables are great green light choices. Imitation meats such as soy burgers, soy hot dogs, and textured vegetable protein are much lower in cholesterol and saturated fats than real meat products. They're convenient to eat and can be helpful in transitioning to a plant-based diet. But it's important to be careful about which substitutes you choose. So try to limit meat substitutes to a few times each week and look for products that are lower in sodium and fat. Some of the healthier products are made from whole foods such as lentils, black beans, quinoa, brown rice, and vegetables. They can be really good options, but keep an eye on the sodium content. As we learned earlier, it's best to get our fat from whole plant sources such as olives, avocados, nuts, and seeds. However, if you choose to use oils, it should be very sparingly. Oils have the lowest nutrient density of any food. This means that they have the fewest nutrients per calorie. They are pure fat, so they're more concentrated in calories than any other food. Just 1 tablespoon of oil has 120 calories. If you do use oils, choose extra virgin, cold press forms of olive, avocado, flax or hemp seed oil, organic canola oil, or an essential fatty acid oil blend. Coconut oil is also an option, but it's very high in saturated fat, so you want to use it more sparingly. Avoid cooking with omega-3 rich oils or essential fatty acid oil blends. These oils should not be used for cooking and should be reserved for salads. Animal products fall into the yellow and red light categories. For people who aren't vegetarian or vegan, the yellow light animal products are better choices than red light animal products. But Wes and I don't promote these foods at all. Personally, I've chosen to completely eliminate animal products, not only for my own health, but also because of my concern for animals and for the environment. On one end, we have whole plant-based green light foods, and on the other end, we have the worst of the worst red light foods. The more choices you make towards green light end of the spectrum, the healthier you will be. But health is a journey that happens one step at a time. If you're frequently eating red light foods like processed or red meats, it's a step in the right direction to replace them with white meats such as poultry or fish and only eat it once or twice a week, while primarily eating green light foods. If you're already used to eating a primarily plant-based diet, consider eliminating these yellow light meats completely. but we understand that it isn't an easy choice for everyone. So if you prefer to consume some animal products, it's important for you to know which are the most healthful. With that said, let's discuss organic, fat-free, or low-fat dairy products. These foods don't have as much saturated fat or cholesterol as full-fat dairy, and organic forms are safer than regular dairy products. However, if you do use these dairy products, it should be sparingly. Even though they're low in fat, they've been associated with an increased risk for some chronic diseases, especially prostate cancer. The most healthful choice in this category is probably organic non-fat yogurt, which contains flora shown to be beneficial for gut health. Of course, non-dairy fermented and cultured foods, such as soy yogurt or nut cheeses, are even better options. Your best bet for eggs are those that are free-range and rich in omega-3 fatty acids. The hens producing these eggs are fed flax or fish, and this significantly boosts their content of DHA. Of course, all eggs are high in saturated fat, cholesterol, and animal protein. Remember that egg yolk is where the cholesterol and saturated fat are at, so using more egg whites and fewer yolks reduces the fat and cholesterol content. Cold water fish such as trout, mackerel, herring, salmon, and water-packed tuna contain omega-3 fatty acids, which boost brain function and reduce inflammation and protect against heart disease. However, many fish contain heavy metals such as mercury and other dangerous environmental contaminants such as dioxin. The Environmental Working Group provides an excellent online guide to seafood. But you don't need to eat fish to get omega-3s. Fish actually don't make EPA and DHA. They get it at some point along the food chain from a plant in the ocean called microalgae. DHA and EPA supplements made from cultured microalgae are now widely available. You can also get plant omega-3s from things like flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, and walnuts. White meats such as chicken and turkey are generally better options than red meats, but they're no health heroes. When it comes to poultry, legs, thighs, and wings are fattier than chicken breast, and all chicken is higher in fat with the skin on. Fried chicken is less healthful than lean red meat cooked without added fat. If you do eat white meat, leave aside the skin and choose the leanest cuts such as chicken breast. Make sure to buy organic products so you bypass the hormones and antibiotics that are used in conventionally raised animals. Remember to choose yellow light foods with caution. Green means go, yellow means slow, and red means no. Remember the analogy that when you have a disease like diabetes, it's kind of like your body is a house on fire. Green light foods are like the water on the fire. Red light foods are like the gasoline. These foods raise blood sugars, promote inflammation, raise cholesterol and triglycerides, promote weight gain, and significantly increase the risk of many different diseases. Ideally, red light food should be completely avoided, but if you do choose to eat them, please make sure it's on a very limited basis. The first red light food group is refined grains. When a kernel of wheat is refined to produce white flour, we remove almost everything of value to human health. Grains are made up of three main components: bran, germ, and endosperm. Refining removes two out of these three. The first is the bran, where most of the fiber is, and the second is the germ, which it really is the storehouse of nutrients for the kernel of wheat. What's left is the endosperm, otherwise known as starch. This process removes about 75% of the vitamins and minerals, 90% of the fiber, and 95% of the phytochemicals that the wheat kernel originally contained. But it doesn't stop there. Nobody sits down and eats a bowl of white flour. Before we eat the flour, we add fat, sugar, salt, flavors, preservatives, and colors to the flour, and then we eat it. We find refined grains in breads, bagels, cereals, pasta, cakes, cookies, pies, pastries, crackers, pretzels, and other baked goods. Sometimes nutrients are added back to the flour in a process called enrichment, but the end product is still missing the fiber, the phytochemicals, and many vitamins and minerals. So although enrichment is desirable, it's a very distant second choice to leaving the grain intact in the first place. That's why we've encouraged you to eat green, light grains. But unfortunately, the average American eats about 6 servings of refined grains every day and less than 1 serving of whole grains. Close to 90% of our grain intake and 70% of our total calories comes from refined grains. Refined grains contribute to low-grade inflammation in the body. They're broken down to sugar, so once absorbed, their impact is similar. Refined grains are linked to increased abdominal fat, atherosclerosis, diabetes, and early mortality. Refined carbohydrates, including both starches and sugars, should be greatly minimized in the diet. Be sure to get the vast majority of your starches from green light grains and a smaller percentage from yellow light grains. If you do eat red light grains, be sure it's a very small amount, no more than 1 or 2 servings each day. Refined sugars such as white sugar, brown sugar, syrups, jam, jelly, candy, and sweet drinks such as soda are even more damaging to health than refined grains. Of course, many refined grain products have large amounts of sugar added. The average American eats about 30 teaspoons of sugar every day. This is about 480 calories, or almost 25% of calories in a 2,000 calorie diet. Close to half of this excess sugar comes from soft drinks. Much of the sugar comes from high fructose corn syrup, which is even more unhealthful than cane sugar or table sugar. Excess sugar consumption wreaks havoc in the body in multiple ways. It contributes to weight gain, high triglycerides, insulin resistance, and inflammation, which in turn increases the risk for many diseases, including diabetes, heart disease, and even cancer. The effects of fructose are even more pronounced than that of glucose. In fact, fructose has been shown to increase the formation of advanced glycation end products 8 times more than glucose. AGEs accelerate almost every disease process known to mankind and contribute to aging. It's so critical to minimize refined sweets and foods with added sugars. Of the 60,000 foods available in grocery stores, 80% of them are spiked with added sugar. That's another reason why it's so important to eat whole foods and to read the labels of the packaged foods you do eat. It's very natural to crave sweet foods, but nature provides them in much healthier forms. Your health will greatly benefit if you replace your usual sweets with whole fruit. Try making fruit smoothies or ice cream with frozen fruit like bananas and strawberries and a little nut milk in the blender. I replace sugar in almost all of my baking, including cookies, bars, muffins, and raw treats with dried fruits like dates and prunes and pears, which provide valuable nutrients and fiber. With a little practice, healthy sweets can become very satisfying. At 120 calories per tablespoon, oils are full of fat but are very low in nutrients. Green light fats come from whole foods such as avocados, nuts, seeds, and olives. Yellow light fats come from extra virgin cold-pressed oils. They aren't as nutritious as high-fat whole foods, but they have more vitamin E and phytochemicals than regular oils. Virgin cold-pressed oils are extracted physically without chemical manipulation. Non-virgin oils are refined even further and often undergo chemical treatment. Our grocery store shelves are filled with too many processed packaged foods to count. Processed foods make up 70% of the American diet, from frozen dinners to baking mixes, margarines, canned goods, chips, microwave popcorn, cookies, and many other snack foods. These foods meet us at every turn. But although they're popular and convenient, processed foods are loaded with empty calories. Many of them are full of chemicals and food toxins. Healthy foods, once processed, can do more harm than good. Packaged foods often contain trans fats, which increase the risk of heart disease, diabetes, and cancer, even more than saturated fats do. Trans fats are created by adding hydrogen to vegetable oils under pressure to turn them into solid fats. But research has found trans fats to be so dangerous that in 2008, New York City actually banned them from being served to the public. Thankfully, the FDA is now taking steps to ban trans fats completely. This simple change would prevent an estimated 20,000 heart attacks per year. But unfortunately, some trans fats are still available, so we need to take the initiative to ban them from our own diets. Make sure to read nutrition labels. Even if a product claims to be trans-free, this might not be true. Products with less than half a gram of trans per serving still qualify as being called trans-free. The best way to ensure a packaged food does not contain trans fats is to read the ingredient list. If you see the word shortening or partially hydrogenated oil, the food contains trans fat, even if it says trans-free. Fried foods are loaded with fat, calories, and sodium. When we submerge our foods in pure fat, we triple the calories. For example, a large baked potato has about 220 calories. Turn it into French fries, and the same potato contains almost 700 calories, 480 of which are pure fat. It's not just the calories that are the issue. Many foods that are fried in cheap oils contain trans fats. Also, when oils hit their smoke point, very high temperatures, which often happens with deep frying, toxic byproducts or toxic compounds are formed that increase oxidative stress and contribute to disease processes. For anyone struggling with metabolic problems, these oils should be avoided completely. The next red light group is cheese and full-fat dairy. While these foods are staples in the Western diet, they're loaded with fat, saturated fat, and cholesterol. High-fat dairy products increase the risk of heart disease, diabetes, and many other illnesses. Conventional dairy products contain hormones that promote hormone-dependent cancers such as breast, ovarian, and prostate cancer. Dairy sometimes contains traces of antibiotics, pesticides, and other toxins. Some research also suggests that dairy consumption may increase the risk of type 1 diabetes and other autoimmune diseases in some individuals. Although we've been taught to believe that dairy consumption is necessary for bone health, this is just simply untrue. It's true that dairy products are high in calcium, but that doesn't make them essential foods any more than it does moose milk or deer milk, which incidentally have about twice as much calcium as cow's milk. We get plenty of calcium from plant foods such as dark green leafy vegetables, tofu, legumes, and fortified plant-based products. You can also protect bone health by reducing the amount of sodium you eat, which will help prevent calcium loss, and also by getting regular exercise, which strengthens your bones. Don't let the dairy industry fool you. You don't need milk to be healthy or strong. Red meat such as beef, lamb, pork, and veal is high in saturated fat and cholesterol. Red meats dramatically increase the risk of many diseases, including diabetes, some forms of cancer, heart disease, and premature death. A National Institutes of Health study found that when people increased their usual red meat consumption by about half a serving per day, which is only the size of about a half a deck of cards, it's about an ounce and a half, they had 48% higher risk for developing diabetes in the following 4 years, while people who decreased their red meat consumption had a reduced risk. Processed meats such as wieners, salami, sausages, ham, bologna, bacon, Spam are far worse than unprocessed red meats. According to the Nurses' Health Study, which followed over 120,000 people for 28 years, eating just one serving of processed red meat a day was associated with a 20% increased risk of dying during the study. One serving is equal to 1 ounce of processed meat or a half an ounce of bacon. Not only are processed meats full of saturated fat and cholesterol, but they also have extremely high sodium levels and are often full of unhealthy chemicals that extend their shelf life. The American Institute for Cancer Research recommends that we limit red meat and completely avoid processed meat. And that concludes our discussion on red light foods. Remember, nutrition guidelines are designed to protect us. Healthy food is powerful medicine. The more you invest in quality nutrition, the more your health will thank you. So fill your plate with green light foods today.
Remember, as you journey towards reclaiming your health, stay as close as possible to green. In the next episode, we'll move from foods and talk about nutrition in terms of beverages. This 4-part Diabetes Undone series focuses primarily on the nutritional aspects of diabetes reversal, but there's much more to know. If you would like to have access to the entire Diabetes Undone video course, visit diabetesundone.com, where you can watch all 40 videos and we can continue to journey together as you reclaim your life and health.